Okay. So on the let me try to. Okay. Cool. It works.
And I'll paste the slides link into the chat right now.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you all about soft navigation heuristics. This is a leftover topic from TPAC that we didn't get time for. At the same time, it was good because I didn't actually wrote my slides then. I just wrote them today, but so it all worked out for the best. Basically, this is a continuation of a conversation we started last year, if not before. At TPAC last year, we talked about measuring SPAs, what it would mean, why it's hard, yada, yada. And then this year, we talked a bit about task attribution, which is infrastructure that is needed in order for those heuristics to work properly. And now we're going to talk about the heuristics themselves. So there's an explainer up on GitHub. There's a YCG proposal. I have a Chromium prototype that is implemented behind a flag. And I'm planning to go for an origin trial to enable folks to try it out soon. That's the high level overview. But what are we talking about when we're talking about soft navigation heuristics? We're talking about SPA navigations that are JavaScript driven, and the use case to enable developers to measure that is to enable developers to correlate their performance entries of various types to the corresponding soft navigations. And so that is true for all existing performance entries. For load-related entries, so paint timing, so first paint, first contentful paint, and largest contentful paint at the very least, it might be interesting to retrigger those entries in the in the case of soft navigation, and be able to measure the impact of those paints on those soft navigations. So what are the heuristics we're talking about? They are relatively simple ones. I started with more complex heuristics and then trimmed them over time when life convinced me that in order to increase to actually cover most existing SPAs, I need to simplify that. So the current heuristics are based on a user-initiated click for some definition of click that we'll talk about in a bit, that is resulting in both a URL modification, a user-visible URL modification to the history API or the navigation API, and then a DOM modification. Both of those are a direct result of the user-initiated click. And to be able to say that one is a result of another, this is why we needed task attribution for that. And the reason I have an asterisk on click is that Michael pointed out that some click events are we need to account for accessibility as well, and click events won't always cover it. And this is another part where I'll need to expand the heuristic a bit to cover keyboard-driven navigations or keyboard-driven interactions with the page and navigation to the next page. So when a soft navigation is detected, the next paint will trigger a first paint entry. The next contentful paint will trigger an FCP, and all the largest contentful paints from that point on will trigger LCP, where we are restarting the size of what largest means and resetting the fact that we're stopping we stop recording LCPs after an interaction, and this will continue up until the next interaction. At least that's what I currently have in mind. We'll also talking about triggering a new entry that will be a soft navigation entry. It doesn't include a lot of attributes on its own. It has the navigation ID attribute that we already talked about, that Ian talked about previously, about the a way for us to designate different navigation types and know that another navigation happened that we can correlate other performance entries to. It includes the start time, which is the time where the click, when the click event started. The name has the soft navigation URL. Entry type is soft navigation, and duration is currently being discussed, and we'll talk about it at the end. There are multiple options there. Some code examples on how people will actually use this. So if you just, as a developer, want to collect a list of the soft navigation, the soft navigations that happened at the session's end, you can just use Performance Observer, the buffered flag, and just collect those entries as you normally would. No surprises there. If you want to create a list over time as the page is loading, similarly, you will create, add create an array and then push entries to that array as Performance Observer gets fired over time. And and then if you want to correlate entries with those navigations, you can similarly collect those entries. In this example, it's LCP, but it could be any other kind of entry. And then you can take for each one of those entries, take your list of soft navigations, filter them to find the soft navigation entry with that navigation ID, and then apply the duration based on the entry's start time and navigation. Like the entry start time minus the navigation start time would be your entry's duration compared to the soft navigation. Reading out that code out loud, I realized that this is not like, this is O square. Don't do that. I will fix my examples. Yeah, bad. So in terms of spec dependencies, there are a bunch of them. So this depends on navigation ID as a concept that hasn't landed yet. I believe Ian has a PR up against HTML, but it hasn't landed yet. And we're relying on that concept here in order to be able to do that correlation. This relies on task attribution, which is also completely unspecified and will need to be specified to some extent, at least in order for those heuristics to be interoperable. And then finally, this imagines paint timing and LCP modifications that will need to happen in order to specify everything I just said. In Chromium, we have a somewhat working prototype. It is it's working well enough. There are a bunch of bugs that people who kindly played around with an early prototype found and filed. I would highly appreciate if folks on this call will play around with the prototype and find more bugs and file them, and I'll be able to fix them. There are a bunch of issues on the GitHub repo. If you have ideas or thoughts, please file more. And finally, folks here could chime in on the YCG proposal in order for us to be able to take the repo from my own personal repo and move it over to the YCG. There are a bunch of open questions. One is, what should the duration be? There's one of the issues discusses that, and it's like right now it seems like a good option there would be the time in which, so the end, we know what the start time is. What should be the end time? And then one option is for the end time to be the time in which we realized, or the heuristic realized, that a soft navigation has happened. So a time after the user click where the DOM modification happened and the URL was changed. That could be one option. I am open to other suggestions. Another open question was around the FCP and LCP definition. Right now, I'm not necessarily considering the FCP or LCP to be ones that are a direct result of the user interaction. So I'm stopping the task attribution part at the point where we decide that the soft navigation has happened, but not taking it further. Maybe we should. It would be interesting to gather opinions. It would also be interesting to gather data once we have people trying this out in production using the origin trial. Same for the third question here. Maybe we need more complex heuristics. Maybe there are some false positives or some false negatives. And these are things that I think will be answered in the field. And with that, let's start the discussion portion. I will stop recording.